Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It is Monday night, and I am your reluctant gringo, and I am back. So, yay, we've made it double digits. All right, we started this a couple weeks ago. And, just a little experiment and live streaming. Here we are, and as you can tell, it's Christmas. As you can tell behind me, we get the lights up, we get the stocking up, we got a little tree. Sad little tree. It's my little tree. It's my little Charlie Brown tree. We're going to talk a little bit politics today. I know there's some pop culture stuff, but it's the same old pop culture stuff that we've been talking about day in, day out. The box office movies, things like that. And, things are going well there. And we'll definitely get back to that. Tonight's Skeleton Crew, Star Wars Skeleton Crew, is going to be live. And so we'll get into some of that tomorrow. I don't want to get in. I know a lot of you have already sort of probably watched that and probably seen some reactions right away. But well, hold on one second. Let me just get that thing rolling. And so I get it, the Skeleton Crew and all that. Definitely got to fix this mic. Gonna have to fix this mic somehow. Hold on one second, everybody. Boom, 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 boom. That's way better. Ooh, I like that. Okay. So, the whole thing about Star Wars is that it used to be an event. It's not really an event anymore. And I'm sure it'll be a fine show. I'm looking forward to it. I think it'll be fun, but it's not something I'm rushing out to spend time doing right now. And I'll definitely watch that later on with my wife. But a lot of politics happened over the weekend, and we got to definitely get into that. Play with that. You know what? The heck with the headphones. All right. Get rid of the headphones. Boom. Because those are crackling. And don't worry, if my mic ain't working, my wife will throw something at me. She'll just open the door and crack Caesar in the head there. Get my little Allah Akbar here thing on. We're going to talk politics. We're going to talk about all that fun stuff. Hunter Biden, you saw it by the thumbnail. We're going to get into it. Here's the thing. I'm not a fan. Obviously, I'm not a fan. But, the reaction and the takes on this is a little wrong, a little off. It doesn't feel good, and I really took some time. It didn't feel good, and I told my wife, this stinks, right? And it's not what was done, it's the way it was done, and I think I'm going to get into that in a little bit and kind of get you guys explain that a little bit, right? It's not what was done, it's how it was done, and I think that's the big problem I think everybody has with this. We'll talk about a little bit of the history of presidential pardons. We'll look at the statement itself, which is the biggest mess. I don't know who wrote this, authorized this. It's just the statement that President Biden put out with the pardon does not do him any favors. It doesn't help the case. It really does. It really, honestly, it actually just, it kind of throws the whole system under the bus. It actually says to the American public, if you voted for Trump, you did the right thing. That's what this statement says. It says, if you voted for Trump, you did the right thing because the government is broken in his administration. He absolutely, we're going to go through it. It's amazing when I actually read it, because it gets read to you on the news and you're like, you kind of half listening because when someone's reading something to you, you kind of like, and it's breaking news and you think to yourself, you're not really taking it, but you read it, when you go back and read it again, it's like, oh, damn. I'm not sure if this is a presidential statement or a cry for help or just an apology, maybe. I don't know. There's so much in it. There's so much in it besides the pardon that it's amazing to read through. But first things first, Hunter Biden, like him, don't like him. His crimes, yeah. He's not the guy he's not the guy. He's not the problem here, and let's let me just sort of explain myself. Let's transition into this and transition to this. Boom. There we go. So the problem isn't Hunter. You really can't get mad at people who've gotten pardons in the history of the United States because they've just been pardons, right? They've been pardons, right? Article 2, and I'm a big believer in the Constitution. I'm a big believer in following the Constitution and obeying it. I'm a big believer in, thinking that the separation of powers is a good thing. In Article 2, there's a separation of power for the president, and that's really where the pardon power comes from. And here it is. I'm going to read it to you. I know some people have never actually read the Constitution of U.S. citizens, and it blows my mind because it's your rights. So Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1. Now, Article 2, of course, is the executive clause. It sets up the executive branch of the government, including the president and the cabinet. So the president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. When called into the actual service of the United States, he may require the opinion in writing of the principal officer in each of the executive departments upon any subject relating to the duties of their respective offices, that's the cabinet, and he shall have, and here's the important part, and he shall have power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in cases of impeachment. So the whole idea where people are like, oh, they're going to impeach President Trump and he's just going to pardon himself. He can't. Presidents can't pardon themselves in the cases of impeachment. If the offense has gone to Congress and Congress has passed article, a president can't just wave that magic wand. Anyways, so it's pretty clear, and it's been pretty clear since 1886 when the Supreme Court ruled that the power of presidential pardon is widespread and ever scoping, and it covers whatever he wants. It covers, it's unlimited. Again, in cases of impeachment, and let me read this. And this is from, what I'm reading from is from the Constitution Annotated. Basically, it's a website dedicated to the Constitution and what it means. So in 1886 case, Ex parte Garland, the Supreme Court, referred to the president's authority to pardon as, quote, unlimited, except in cases of impeachment, extending to, quote, every offense known to the law and able to be exercised, quote, either before legal proceedings are taken, so before you get charged or go to court, or during their pendency or during the court, you can be pardoned during your hearing, or after conviction and judgment. You can. Much later, the court wrote that the, quote, broad power conferred in the Constitution gives the president plenary authority to forgive a convicted person in part or entirely, to reduce the penalty in terms of specified number of years, or to alter it with certain conditions. That's the commutation, basically saying, hey, I know you did this, but, I think 50 years in jail is too much. I'm going to commute your sentence to 10 years. Either way, the pardon that was given out today was probably one of the widest sweeping pardons I've seen, or I think it's on record since Nixon. We'll get into that. But that's the power of the pardon. That's a constant. So everybody who's a Republican or Democrat, well, here's the thing. I'm a Republican. And so I see a lot of Republicans getting mad. And I know they're mad. And I know why they're mad. Because it's sort of like, they think they've got them in the corner because of the corruption and all that. I get that. It seems like they're covering up. It seems like they're covering up. I get that. I'm not dismissing that. I'm not saying that that's not a valid thing to be upset about. However, if you're a Republican, you have to just basically say, okay, this is where you got to punt, because as a Republican, you believe in the Constitution. You believe in following the Constitution to the letter of the law. And the letter of the law says the president can pardon his son for everything. Everything the president did today was legally, constitutionally correct, 100%. Like it or not. Legally, 100% good. Was it morally? And that's a different story. I think, does it show different things about the Democratic Party, which will make me never, ever go back to the Democratic Party, barring if a Republican president let off a nuclear weapon, I might think, okay, maybe that's not the party for me. But right now, with everything that's happened between watching a presidential candidate and the Vice President Kamala Harris spend $2.5 billion. It was $1 billion. They found it's $2.5 billion. The Democratic Party wasted $2.5 billion, and they don't know where all that money went. So God bless America that, again, another sign that if you voted for Trump, you did the right thing. Who's going to put them in? You want them in charge of the economy? Hell no. They don't know where $2.5 billion went. They gave it out to their celebrity friends. Thanks. No, I don't need that in my life. I don't think you need that in your life either. But also today with this pardon, it shows the hypocrisy outright. It's just such in your face that it's just one of the things like, I don't want to be you're a Democrat. Like it used to be when I was growing up, it'd be, you're a Republican. oh, you're a Republican. Now it's switched. Now it's like, oh, you're a Democrat. Like you agree with that you're okay with that. And don't give me the whole it's a father-son thing. I get that. Any father would do what they could for their son. Any good father, I should say, would do what they could for their son. This one just happens to be in a position to grant pardon. And again, totally legally 100% constitutionally correct in what he did. Great. Get it. Understand it. All right. But before we get to that, what about pardons? Pardons and reprieves. All right. So the first pardon was issued, just so you know, and give you an idea of the idea of, like, you know, a pardon. Again, it could be for anything. But the first pardon, the first time this was ever used was by George Washington. It was called the Whiskey Rebellion. And what it was, the country was in need of money. We were in debt after the Revolutionary War against Britain. Secretary of the Treasury, Alexander Hamilton, suggested that we put an excise tax on liquor that we made in the country. Well, some boys in Western Pennsylvania didn't think that was a great idea. About 400 of them. And they went into open rebellion. They burned down the tax collector's house. And to quell the rebellion, Washington had to get the militia of the United States, march into Western Pennsylvania, and put down this whole rebellion. It's 1794, I want to say. 1794. Oh, yeah, right there. 1794, Western Pennsylvania. They arrested a bunch of them, tried them. 2 men were tried for treason, which, according to the Constitution, you get convicted of treason. It's the death penalty. So they were going to hang them. And Washington didn't want any more division in the country. The country was just beginning. And he said, you know what? I'm going to pardon these guys. Say, listen, I get it. We'll take away the excise tax, which it got taken away, I think, in 1803 or 1802. They repealed it. But still, he didn't want any more division. And that's really sort of the reason why you would have this power is really for things like that. You know, say, okay, I get it. No harm, no foul. We get it. Right? We fought a revolution against not being taxed. Now I'm taxing you. I get it. Let's not kill anybody over it. All right, let's stop this madness. Now, that was the first time a presidential pardon was ever used. Now, presidential pardons have always been and have been controversial since the beginning of even before the Constitution was written. This man right down here, you see his picture, his name's George Mason, instrumental in the Constitutional Convention when they were actually first writing our U.S. Constitution with James Madison and everyone else. Now, James Madison was sort of the person who got the power of the pardon in the document. A lot of people, almost half, it was about split evenly. About half of the states, half of the representatives said they think that, okay, if there's going to be a pardon power, then it needs to have some sort of check and balance. That if the president pardons someone, then the Senate needs to say, okay, that's cool. Yeah, we agree. Or say, no, you can't do it, and so the pardon never happens. There needed to be some sort of check and balance there. Some just said no outright because it's like having the authority of a king that's going to turn into a dictatorship, a monarch, a dictatorial rule. I can say who's guilty and who's not all the livelong day, and no one can stop me. So a lot of people didn't want this power. It was a real fight back and forth and really threatened a lot of what the Constitution would become. But it was James Madison who came out and said, listen, we're all reasonable men. James Madison, who would become a president himself, he said, we're all reasonable men. He said, there's no way. He didn't think. None of these men thought. Well, they all thought, listen, no one's going to give a pardon out that's going to harm themselves politically. They said, no one's going to do that because everybody's going to want to get reelected. And everybody wants to make sure that their legacy and their reputations are upheld. So James Madison, because all these guys, they really thought that was an important thing. This idea of reputation, this idea of credibility and authenticity within politics. That's how it started out. I know it's not the way it is now. That's how it started out. They did not even conceive of the fact that at the end of a presidential term, that presidents would drop a bunch of pardons on the last day of being the last hour of being president, and boom, there it goes, because they can't be impeached. And they can't be not reelected because they're out of it anyways. They never envisioned it being this way. This wasn't what they thought. And so that's why pardons are so controversial. So, we talk about the Whiskey Rebellion. The biggest pardon in presidential history is one of Richard Nixon. Now, Richard Nixon should have gone to jail. Richard Nixon should have been tried as a war criminal because he indiscriminately bombed countries we weren't at war with. He dropped massive amounts of bombs on Laos and Cambodia, parts of Thailand, because he thought the Vietnamese were there. Women, children, everything. It was devastating. It was horrible, right? And so and of course he had a lot of things that he did illegally in terms of rigging elections and things like that, and playing around with the Justice Department and just bunnies. And it was terrible, right? It was terrible, terrible, terrible. He should have gone to jail, right? But Ford pardoned him, saying, I don't want the country to be in division. I don't want the country to be angry. I don't want the country. And so that was a wide sweeping pardon. It took care of everything he could have been guilty of and whatnot. That's what we saw today. It's amazing. That is the type of pardon that we saw for Hunter Biden. Now, we're talking the kind of pardon that you give an ex-president, as in Richard Nixon. Okay, a lot at stake there. Hunter Biden basically got the same kind of pardon as a president. And this is the statement. I'm going to put on my glasses because I can't read shit without my glasses. And this is the BS statement that was put up. And when I say BS, we're going to go through it a little bit here. Now, first of all, I'm not going to play the clip that's been played a million times all over again with Joe Biden and Karine Jean-Pierre and everybody else in the administration saying, no, I will not pardon Hunter Biden. They were asked multiple times, over and over and over and over and over again. I'm not gonna pardon him. Not gonna pardon. Nope, there's no pardon table. And of course, it's all a lie. And we all knew it was a lie. The only people that didn't know it was a lie were people interviewing Biden who wanted him to continue to be president. This political hacks and partisans. So, all right, here we go. Statement from President Joe Biden. Thank God this guy's only got about another month and a half left. But he could do a lot of damage in a month and a half. We'll get into that too. Today, I signed a pardon for my son Hunter from the day I took office and said I would not interfere with the Justice Department's decision making, which he just did. And I kept my word even as I have watched my son being selectively and unfairly prosecuted. Joe, it's your Department of Justice, buddy. Everybody in that Department of Justice works for you. It's your Attorney General. It's your Special Prosecutor. Everybody there, it's your Department of Justice. If your Department of Justice is unfairly targeting a member of your own family as President of the United States, who the hell else are they targeting unfairly? All right? If this Department of Justice is targeting the son of a president unfairly, Joe, then who else are they going? That should be the real question you should be asking yourself, all right? You're talking about your own. So, folks, he's trying to make it sound like it's him against the machine. He is the machine. It's his machine. It's his machine. Without aggravating factors like use in a crime, multiple purchases, or buying a weapon as a straw purchaser, people are almost never brought to trial on felony charges solely for how they filled out a gun form. He wasn't just brought to charges unfairly solely on a gun form. He also owed $1.4 million in back taxes. As well, I seem to remember that for the longest time, Joe, you and your vice president there, the cackling Kamala, were so adamant at taking people's guns. You have to crack down on gun crime, guns, and access to guns, and the Second Amendment needs to be challenged. And well, start with your own family then. Your own family is illegally obtaining a handgun. But you want to complain about everybody in Texas. Fine, whatever. Hypocrite. Those who were late paying their taxes because of serious addictions. Listen, folks, if you and I were late paying our taxes or made a mistake on our tax form, we'd be audited, number one. Number two, we'd probably see some sort of charge and punishment, whether it be jail, whether it be a huge-ass fine, whether it be whatever, garnishing our wages. We would be under the thumb of the government for less. And he owed $1.4 million in taxes. By the way, you know how they always talk, we need to make the rich pay their fair share. Well, except for when the rich happens to be the son of the president who owes, because I've never had to owe $1.4 million in back taxes. If you had to owe $1.4 million in back taxes, it means you were fucking rich. So that rich person didn't pay their fair share, and we don't seem too upset about it, or to see making him pay his fair share, or to making him an example of paying your fair share. No, all that class warfare bullshit. And this is where, this is one of the worst things. The worst thing that could have happened to the Democrats was they ran Kamala Harris and they spent $2.5 billion that they don't know where it went. The Democratic Party is in shambles. This is like, if it was in shambles, someone poured gasoline on it and Joe Biden came around and lit a match and said, I'm going to light it all on fire as I walk out the door. That's what this statement is. Realize I'm not even out of the first paragraph yet. So the guy's already saying his own Department of Justice is corrupt. The guy's already saying that we shouldn't go after people for gun crimes, even though they've been saying that all along. We shouldn't go after people who aren't paying their taxes, even though he's hired 80,000 new IRS agents to go after people who aren't paying their taxes, or to get more money out of the people who really are paying their taxes. You know, squeeze them for a little bit. Squeeze the nickel until the eagle screams. All right. It is clear that Hunter was treated differently. Someone go ask President Trump what it feels like to be treated differently. Go ask his children what it feels to be. They made up a law in New York. They literally made up a law to charge him with a crime. Then ask me what it's like to be treated differently. Meanwhile, oh, by the way, treated differently, a grand jury helped bring the indictment against this guy. This wasn't some Yahoo prosecutor. It was a special prosecutor appointed by the Department of Justice. The charges in his cases came about only after several of my political opponents in Congress instigated them to attack me and oppose my election. No, they didn't. Remember, it was all Russian disinformation. Remember, the laptop was all Russian disinformation. 51 intelligence, directors. Nope, it's all Russian. None of this is true. And we found out it was true. Congress just said, hey, no, they're lying. This is true. So pointing out the truth is not instigating an investigation. Pointing out what is true and what is not is what they should be doing. So basically, they did their job and your son got in trouble. Then a carefully negotiated plea deal agreed to by the Department of Justice unraveled in the courtroom. Why did it unravel in the courtroom? Because the judge looked at it. A federal judge looked at this plea deal between Hunter Biden and the Department of Justice, Joe Biden's Department of Justice, and said, this is bullshit. This is never, the judge had never seen anything like that before. Any type of sweetheart deal like that before. Anything. It just giving him immunity for crimes that they didn't even realize what was going on. So the federal judge said, no, this is unprecedented and you're not going to do it here. This is elitism at its best and you're not going to do it here. They said, come back with something different. Well, they did. We're going to skip through this. Had the plea deal held, it would have been fair, reasonable. Had the plea deal held, it would have been fair, reasonable resolution of Hunter's cases. Again, the federal judge herself said, no, not in my courtroom. So it wasn't fair. Now, I love this. No reasonable person who looks at the facts of Hunter's cases can reach any other conclusion than Hunter was singled out only because he's my son. Remember, folks, he was convicted by a jury of his peers. So now President Biden, Joe, the big guy, is calling the American public chosen to go on jury duty. He's calling them not reasonable. He's basically calling them stupid. He's calling out the American public that showed up to do their service on a jury. Let me tell you something, folks. I've been on juries before. I've been to jury duty, sit there all day. No one wants to be on jury duty. No one wants to go to that shit. No one wants to be there. It ain't fun. It's the least fun you can have. I don't care what the case is. Least fun you can have. But according to the President of the United States, the people who decided that case, the people who sat on that jury, are not reasonable. Thank you, Mr. President. So basically, you're saying the justice system is all fucked up, too. So the Department of Justice is corrupt. Your own Department of Justice is corrupt. And the justice system doesn't work. Awesome. Good. Just what you want from a president of the United States. There's been an effort to break Hunter, who has been 5.5 years sober. I don't care if he's been 5.5 years sober. I've been 20 plus years sober. What has that got to do with it? My mistake. I fucked up. I fixed it. Good. Hunter fucked up. He fixed it. Good. You don't get a lollipop for that. All right? You don't get a, what do you want, a standing ovation? Jesus Christ. I didn't expect one. No one does. Really, honestly, most people who have to go through it, they don't expect at the end of it for people to give them a standing ovation. They just want to quietly go on with their lives. Not Hunter, though. He needs all the ego stroking he can get. And no one's trying to break Hunter. Just trying to figure out what the hell's going on. How do you get all that money? How do you get all those drugs? How do you get all those hookers? What was going on in Ukraine? Why was he there? Hell, I'm down here in south of the border. Every time I go cross the border back to the United States, I get asked 15,000 different questions. What am I doing down there? How am I making money? Am I bringing anything up? Like literally, ask him the same. I can ask, it's not a big deal. Answer the questions. Oh, in the face of unrelenting attacks and selective prosecution. Again, it's your own Department of Justice, you jackass. Oh, President Biden, you're a jackass. Your own Department of Justice. If you're saying in this letter that your own Department of Justice is performing selective prosecutions on people, then you need to shut down the Department of Justice right now. You need to walk up to Congress and say, listen, I need to shut this shit down. I need to put a stop to it right now until the next guy gets in, and you need to fire everybody. Because that's not how the system is supposed to work. If the President of the United States is calling out selective prosecution from his own administration, we have a problem. For my entire career, I followed a simple principle. Just tell the American people the truth. They'll be fair-minded. Here's the truth. We don't believe a word he says. Again, over and over and over again, he said, I will not pardon him. I will not pardon him. Now they'll tell you, you see, he wrestled with it over the Thanksgiving weekend. Bullshit. NBC News has already reported from aides that leaked it that said, they said the plan all along was to tell the press back in June that we're going to say no pardon, no pardon, no pardon for Hunter, no pardon for Hunter, all the while keeping it secretly on the table. That's already leaked to NBC News, not Fox News, not News Nation, not Sky News Australia, not not Ben Shapiro or Megyn Kelly, NBC News. So if it's NBC News reporting something negative about President Biden, you probably have to take it to the bank as being true. So he's lying to you. He's not telling you the truth. And he never has. He never has. I believe in the justice system. No, you don't. You just said that 3 paragraphs in a row that you do not believe in your justice system, that they're selectively prosecuting your own son. But as I have wrestled with this, which he hasn't, we already know the plan because it leaked to NBC News. They had this in the works since June. I also believe raw politics has infected this process. Raw politics has infected the court process. Once again, I don't know what the phone number is to Mar-a-Lago, but if you call it, you'll probably get a guy there. Orange skin, blonde hair. He can tell you all about raw politics entering the courtroom and tainting it. But you didn't lift a finger to help that guy, did you? All right. It affected this process and it led to a miscarriage of justice. No, I'm not even going to touch that one. Yeah, I will. Miscarriage of justice by sort of like telling Donald Trump he's fined over $500 billion. $500 billion, what is it? 500 million, 500 billion, whatever it was that he was fined in the state of New York. Crazy amount of money. I hope Americans will understand why a father and president would come to the decision. Yes, that's all you needed to write. You know what you should have write is, listen, I know I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'm a father. I can't stand by. I have the ability to help my son, and I'm going to do it. I know some of you out there won't like it. I know some of you will use it against me. I know some of you will use it against my political allies, but I'm a dad, and I want to help out my son. This is what I'm doing. You know what? I would have been like, cool. I would have had no problem, but you gave me this paragraph and paragraph and paragraph of bullshit. If you just said that, listen, some of you out there are going to hate this. Some of this out is going to anger you, but I'm a dad, and if I have the power to help my son out just one little bit, and I got to do it because I love him. I 100% understand that. I can 100%, President Biden, I get it. Cool. Thanks, man. Yeah, I don't like it, but I get it. I can live with that. Never mention it again. Let it go away, be a footnote in history. But you didn't do that. So after that, you get to the actual pardon. And the actual pardon is just this. Executive grant and clemency, Joseph R. Biden Jr., President of the United States, to all of those presidents shall come greeting. Be it known that this day, I, Joseph R. Biden, Jr., President of the United States, pursuant to my powers under Article 2, Section 2, Clause 1 of the Constitution, have granted unto Robert Hunter Biden a full and unconditional pardon for those offenses against the United States which he's committed or may, this is the great one, for those committed or may have committed or taken part in during the period from January 1st, 2014 through December 1st, 2024. Basically, even if you don't know what he did wrong, this is what sticks. It's not like, hey, I'm going to pardon him for the stuff he was found guilty for in a court of law. He's saying he's pardoning, even if he doesn't know. Okay, so Hunter Biden could have been a serial killer who started killing in 2015. And every 3 months, he found a new victim from 2015 to 2020. 5 years. Just dozens of victims buried, not known. And they could dig up all these bodies and find DNA evidence, say Hunter Biden was a serial killer and he was a mass murderer. Oh, but he's got this little piece of paper that says he's got a presidential pardon for crimes that we didn't know he committed at the time. We can't prosecute him. What do they know that we don't? What's going to come out that we don't know that's going to come out? What are they trying to hide? What are they afraid of? Basically, it's blanket immunity. He was given blanket immunity for anything and everything under the sun of the law for over a 10-year period. That is unprecedented. That is insane. For a normal, everyday American citizen, well, he's not normal every day, but for a non-elected official to get that kind of pardon is insane. I guess Joe just said, if I'm going to go big. All right, cool. Again, if you just came out and said, listen, I'm a dad. I want to protect my son. I love him. Cool. All right. I'm a dad too. I can get it. And he lists the other crimes there that he did. So, and that's it. That's what a pardon is. That's what it is. Insane. Just insane. There he is. Boom. So I got lots of issues with this. Not because of the execution of the power of the Constitution by the President of the United States under full authority. Constitutionally, nothing went wrong. But that statement of just bullshit that just came out of his mouth, trying to justify it. We have lots of problems. You have to look at this government and go, this is fucked up. If the President of the United States is calling out the Department of Justice as being selective and corrupt, oh shit, we got a problem. Because if they're going to go after the son of a president for selective and corrupt prosecution, even though their boss, the actual President of the United States, is saying you shouldn't do that, what hope do you and I have? They want to come after some of us for anything, for whatever reason. That statement, multiple times, in multiple ways, again, said, if you voted for Donald Trump, you made the right decision. It's frightening when you read that and you actually you dissect it. It's frightening. It's abhorrent. It's mind-blowing. It fills you with anger, fills you with shock. It's terrifying to think that the President of the United States has that lack of control over the executive branch of the government. And why does that scare me? Folks, we got another 50 days left of this jackass. We really do. And I mean that now after reading that statement, because he's not in control. I don't know who's in control, but he's not in control. Right? Why am I concerned? Because of this bullshit. Anybody realize that there's another war in the Middle East? All right, so Lebanon and Israel, they signed a ceasefire, which got broken today because they're firing at each other again, even though there's a ceasefire in place. Gaza, Israel, that's still a problem. Iran, Israel, still a problem. Yemen, still a problem. Now in Syria, wicked problem. Civil war been going on for about 20, 25 years. Well, guess what? The Russians started helping out the Syrian government with airstrikes, and Iran has paid or has Iraqi militias. That's right, Iranian Iraqi militias backed by Iranian money and weapons are heading into Syria. What are we doing about this? We now have every country surrounding Israel pretty much at war with somebody. There's an active war going on in every country surrounding Israel, backed by Iran. And we have a president who doesn't seem to be all there. And all this, guess what? All this news and all this information gets dumped on the Sunday. It got dumped yesterday, Sunday of a holiday weekend. That is not an accident, folks. It's called taking out the trash. That's what they literally call that. If you work for the White House, the press room, they call it taking out the trash. Fridays, Sundays of holiday weekends, that's when they'll put out the stories and information they don't want you to miss because no one wants to read the trash. This got taken out with the trash. So Russia strikes. So Russia is now, by the way, there are American troops in Syria doing whatever humanitarian or whatever they're doing there. I wish they weren't there. And then last week when we streamed, I read the article about the German intelligence agency saying that Article 5 needs to be invoked of the NATO Charter, which basically means World War III. And again, the guy in charge isn't in charge. It's friggin' scary. Terrifying. Again, January 20th can't come quick enough. Can't come quick enough. Here we go. It's here. Syrian and Russian jets step up strikes on rebels after opposition seizes much of Aleppo. Aleppo is a city in Syria. By the way, I do have a little... Yes, I run a lot of stories about Syria and Lebanon because I am Syrian and Lebanese. This thing is an Arab headdress. I wear it as a scarf. Yes. So it does have a little bit of meaning for me when I see this. But this civil war has been going on for decades. And now the Russians are involved in a bigger way. And it's a terrible place to be. It's terrible. But like I said, if you look at the map, there's now an active war in basically all the Middle East. We have a regional war. It's not the story used to be there's danger of it being a regional war. No, there's a regional war. Egypt and Saudi Arabia are staying out of it. Why? Because they don't want to put their oil reserves. Iran is now funding a war in Syria. They're now funding a war in Lebanon. They're now funding a war in Gaza. They're funding a war in Yemen. They're funding wars and they're funding militias and terrorist attacks and all sorts of division in Iraq. Seems like the problem's Iran, but we give them tons of money. The Biden administration gives them tons of money. Tons of money. It's awesome. Look at this. Airstrikes hit hospitals in Syria's Idlib region as insurgents fight Assad forces. Yeah. It's tough to see that. I mean, but that's life there. That's been life there. That's like, I always quote The West Wing. There's an episode of The West Wing where a kid asks Sam Seaborn, one of the main characters, Sam Seaborn, one of the speechwriters. So kids in the White House, with a bunch of kids in the classroom, presidential classroom, and kid raises his hand and says, what do you call a country where, every time you go out for pizza, you don't know if you're going to get blown up? And Sam looks at him and goes, Israel. Syria. Lebanon. Can't go out for pizza, you get blown up. But again, this jackoff is running the country and doing nothing about it. Where is he? He's in Africa somewhere right now. Why? Nobody knows. No one has a clue where he's going right now, why he's going there. He might be making a few stops in Europe. I don't know. But he ain't trying to stop the wars. He ain't trying to help stop this stuff. So, again, the whole Hunter Biden pardon comes into focus of what's really an important thing. They're just there for themselves. Just there he's a lame duck. He's trying to get what he can get out of it. Somebody watched the back door as a as they swear in President Trump, they're gonna pull a Hillary Clinton and start stealing the furniture. By the way, that's a true story. Hillary Clinton stole furniture out of the White House. Antique, priceless furniture. Stole it. I think they made her give it back. At least some of it. I don't believe all of it. But they're just in it for themselves. That's all they've ever been, is in it for themselves. And if you've got young kids, I'm talking draft age kids, pray. Just pray, because pray for January 20th and for Trump to take office, and just say, just walk in there like Wyatt Earp. If you've seen the movie Wyatt Earp, Kevin Costner walks into a bar, place is being shot up, everything. He walks in, fires one gun into the air, everybody looks at him and he goes, "I'm Wyatt Earp. The shit stops now." And hopefully that's what Trump, that's what I'm hoping. January 20th. Put your hand on the Bible, swear the oath. All right, let's get to the White House. My name's Donald Trump. The shit stops now. Ukraine, Middle East, just done. Otherwise, you look at what's going on in the world. A lot of stuff doesn't get reported in U.S. news, and that's I talk about observing politics and pop culture from south of the border, right? I know it's sort of like a gimmick because I live south of the border. I call myself the gringo. Why? Because I am a fucking gringo. Everybody here calls me gringo. But it's more than that. You get stories down here from around the world you would never get in the U.S. media. Ever. France, their government is on the verge of collapse. They're going to have no government. Come in a few weeks, they're not going to have a government because their parliament is just crashed. Okay, so the second largest economy in all of Europe is not going to have a government functioning, ruling it. That didn't get reported, did it, in the U.S. media? Why? Because, no one gives a shit about France. You will if it collapses, right? German intelligence asking for NATO to invoke Article 5. Listen, and as I said in the other live stream, if someone's going to give me advice on World War III, I do not want it to be the assholes who started World War I and World War II. So Germany can sit down and shut the fuck up. All right? But that's what's happening, right? In addition to Ukraine, in addition to the Middle East. I bet some of you didn't even see the whole Syria thing. Why? Because it got thrown out with the trash. No one cares. But you put all these things together, what do you have? By the way, there's a Russian sub that's been spotted off the waters of the Philippines. Why? Because Philippines and China hate each other. Why? Because China's trying to take over the South China Sea and encroach on those international waters. And so who's going to help them out? Russia. Why? Because they're buddies. And the Philippines are, did you see that in the news? Nope, I didn't. I saw it down here, south of the border. You start adding up all these little pieces. And where are you going? Where's this leading? Where's the direction? And again, with this jackass who's in my friggin' screen right here, with this friggin' jackass, it's going to a very bad place. It's going to a very, 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 very bad place. And that's why, you know what? Again, I tell my wife all the time, I've got my problems with the president-elect. There's lots of things I don't like about the president-elect, the nuances of his policies, some of the nuances of his style, some of the picks he's made for his cabinet. Sure. And I could pick. But you know what? He doesn't want all this. He doesn't want bullshit. He just wants everybody to make money. Great. He wants economic deals. He wants peace. He wants stability. He wants law and order. Great. Awesome. And this is, again, I'm a former Democrat from Massachusetts. The Democratic Party's dead. And the only place to go for that type of stuff for common sense is the Republican Party. The Democratic Party's dead. Democratic Party will never be what it was when John F. Kennedy was running the Democratic Party. It will never be that again. Ever. That ideal Camelot, that's gone. It's gone. It's never coming back because it's just gone too far left. And the only choice you have left now is the Republican Party. Unless you're a nut job. You want to be a nut job? Fine, be a nut job. Because guess what? What the Democrats have been doing and what's been revealed over the last month after the election, Democrats are nut jobs. $2.5 billion. Where'd the money go? They say they have to do an audit. Aren't there receipts? Like literally, And again, here's what Democratic, if the IRS showed up here because the Democrats wanted more money out of me, they'd say, where are your receipts? I don't have them. Well, then you go into jail. Not for them, though. The Democrats, we don't have the receipts. Where are the receipts? I don't know where it went. Oh, we gave $1 million to Oprah. No, it was $2 million. Nope, it's probably more. Well, what was it? Well, we don't have to check. Okay. $10 million to Beyonce. For what? I don't know. $2.5 billion. Okay. This presidential pardon that basically is Joe Biden's hostage rescue negotiation tactic. He's probably like, help me. Get me out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. He just wants to go sit at the beach. The poor bastard probably just wants to sit at the beach too. You know? He probably really does. At that point in time, believe me, I'm getting older myself. Sometimes I just want to go sit at the beach. I don't want to be bothered. That's probably where he's at. He's at over 80 years. Just wants to go. Relax. Stare at the sun. Stare at the waves. That's it. He doesn't want to be doing what he's doing. I don't think he wants to be doing what he's doing. I think sometimes he thinks he does because he's out of his mind. Talks to the walls and shit. But I think in a real long run reality, he just doesn't want to be there. But to read that pardon over again, go ahead, go back and read it. I mean, I read a bunch of it to you, read most of it to you. But again, let it settle in. Go back and read it. And the President of the United States is telling you the Department of Justice is not a functional department anymore. It is selectively prosecuting private citizens. Could there be anything? And again, honking. And again, they call Republicans a threat to democracy or liberties. Liberties. They're going to take away your rights. Well, if you got a Department of Justice that's going to just selectively prosecute you for no reason whatsoever, I'd say your rights are already gone. So, scary stuff. Scary stuff. It does remind me a lot of what goes down in some of these countries down here. You look at Chile, Ecuador, Brazil. Hell, even here in Mexico. Do you know that they got rid of the courts are no longer independent? I want you to think about that. We have a very far left president here now in Mexico. First woman president. Yay, first woman president. Again, who cares? It doesn't matter. She's first woman president. She's so far left, she helped push through a bill that got rid of the independence of the court system. What does that mean? I just said a mouthful. What does that mean? Okay. I want you to think about this. Think of it this way. A court makes a ruling in a case in the United States. Federal court, Supreme Court, whatever court. Well, some people in Congress don't like it. They're able to pass a bill and say, no, we don't like it, reverse it. So there's no independent court system. A jury and judge go through the whole system, and the 12 people go in the back room, and they decide guilt or innocence. They decide right or wrong. They decide whatever it is. Or three panel, three judges, or the panel of the 9 judges in the Supreme Court. They make a decision. Thoughtful. You may not like it, but it's thoughtful. Oh, great. The Alexander Ocasio-Cortez can come in and say, I don't like that decision. We're gonna overturn it, negate it. We're not going to authorize it. That's what happened down here in Mexico. So now judges will do what they think is politically advantageous for themselves. Even if they think it's wrong or against the law, they're going to make the wrong decisions because they want to keep their job. Hopefully that's not where we're heading in the United States, but I think if you keep electing Democrats, if Kamala Harris won, that's where we're going. They would have packed the courts. They would have just made it just irrelevant. They would have tried to change the Constitution some way. They would have made it irrelevant. World is just a messed up place right now. I'm telling you, you read the news. But again, it's funny. You would think that the pardoning of a presidential son, this shouldn't be that big of a deal, but it is. When you read it in the context of what you have to read it in, you look at the context and you realize that again, I said it already so many times during this video. He's not in charge of the country. Who is? Who is? And it's not Kamala. She can't be in charge of her own campaign. She spent $2.5 billion. She can't get elected president. She ain't finding her. By the way, they're probably keeping her far away from shit in Washington. She's radioactive. So I don't know who's running the country, who's making these decisions. I don't know, because it sure isn't Joe. Especially if he says that he can't trust his own executive branch. In a letter to the American people, an open letter to the American people, cannot trust the executive branch. So I wish we could, I don't want to skip Christmas, but I want to get through it. Get to that January 20th and be like, By the way, that groan you just heard was Caesar. You all mad still at me? He's still mad because I haven't given him food. Well, I give him food, but he wants treats. Anyway, that's what I got for you down here south of the border. It's a Monday. I'm going to watch some wrestling. I'm going to watch Skeleton Crew, Star Wars, eat some food, play some video games. And tomorrow we'll be back, same time, streaming. And I appreciate everybody just checking in. From south of the border, I'm still your reluctant gringo. Stay safe. Enjoy your holidays. Enjoy the rest of your week. Salud. And a huevo. We're going to get out of here. Let's hit that outro.